We are approaching New Year's, and my friends Hank Stallworth and McNulty, whom you've heard me speak of because they're always sharing flowers with me for my hat, usually have a big New Year's Eve party, and I do an arrangement for their great big dining room table. This year, of course, we are all going to be with our very small, intimate family group, but that doesn't mean we can't have our traditions. So at my house, I'll be there with my husband, Edward Wimberly, and my friend Guy Allison, who's part of our family. And we are going to have on our dining room table a traditional arrangement that I make every New Year's. And I like to do things that have old things that look like, you know, the end of the old year, and then new things that look like the rebirth and the new year coming in. I just love rice scoops. I'm gonna take this bracelet off because I'm gonna hit it on something and make noise. Everybody in South Carolina, at least below the Midlands, lives on rice. And we are so lucky because Dr. Merrill Shepard of Clemson and other people around the state have developed these incredible new rice varieties, all based on the old Carolina gold rice. And this is a rice scoop, which in Asian countries is used to measure rice, or traditionally was. I have a lot of them, and I find it to just be indispensable for flower arrangements, and I'll show you why. I traditionally always tell you that everything leaks. So believe me, and that's why you need to have a lot of big, double thick black plastic bags in your pantry. And usually when I'm going to do an arrangement in this, I'm going to be using cut flowers. And in that case, I take some of our Oasis. We've talked about this. It's called wet floral foam. And remember, it just cuts like that. Simple, easy as pie. And you, if you want to use it in an arrangement where you're going to be putting stems of cut flowers in it, you have to soak it first. But in this case, what I'm going to use it for is to lift up the arrangement. So even in any case, I normally would, I've cut this so that it fits in here nice and snug. And if I were going to do a traditional arrangement, I would then use a bowl and have Oasis in it. And I would set it in there. And the point of that, let me show you, is that now my flowers don't have to, if I put the bowl flat on the bottom, the poor little flowers would barely have their little head sticking up. But by raising it up, you get to see more of the flowers, so it makes it a much more appropriate height. But today we're going to use living plants. So I'm going to take this out and put it aside, and you see that I always spray paint everything black. Usually I get it all over myself too. Come on, you can do it. Come on. There you go. We're getting there. It's like trying to put your blue jeans on if you put them in the dryer, right? I always hang mine on the stairwell. I don't like them to be so tight. Come on. Whew. Who said flower arrangement was easy? So this time, because I'm using real plants, I'm going to cover up the Oasis with another black plastic bag, which I have right here. Double. They're called contractor bags or different things like that. You want them to be good and strong. And I'm going to now put potting soil on top of this, because I'm going to plant these living plants in potting soil, just like you'd plant them out in your garden. So I've got some potting soil here, and I'm going to sprinkle it in there. And you know, it's going to tack down some, but I think we're probably going to start with it about like this. I want a little bit of room to work. As I said, I like things that look old and like they're the old year on its way out. And my favorite thing to use generally are plum branches with lichen on them. This year, I was driving by our new librarian. We have a librarian in St. Matthews named Kristen Simmons, and she is just wonderful. We are so fortunate to have her. And she had this dead tree in front of her house, and I traded her a loaf of bread if she would let me cut some of this. This happens to be a hawthorn, and I know that because if you can get a close-up, it's covered with little spines. And I think this is a parsley hawthorn, and I have one growing in my yard, but this one, she's on a very sandy soil. Everything grows very slowly, which is what helps the lichens to grow, because remember, lichens don't hurt plants. They're just a sign that the plant is growing slowly. So I'm going to try to get this one not be too tangled up and put these 2 branches in. Hope I won't poke my eye out. I should have had some safety glasses probably. Okay, and now you'll see why I love rice scoops, because it's got this handle in the middle, and I just so happen to have ready some floral tape. So I can now take my floral tape and tie these to this wonderful handle. And by the time we finish, you'll never see it. I need a little bit more, so let me get a little bit more. And I'll show you a trick of the trade with floral tape. This is super important. So you get it going, and when you cut it, you have to be really, really careful to give a Marilyn Monroe smile. Because if you don't, it'll get on your lip and it'll pull a piece of your lip off. So you have to go just like that. Very, very important. One of the tricks of the florist trade. Okay, so I've got that. And then I generally use an amaryllis, and I couldn't find one this year, one that was sprouting. And so I said, well, I kind of want something that makes the transition between way up here and way down low. Most of my flowers are kind of short. So I found a pepper plant that had these beautiful red peppers on it. And I went in and took off almost, remember, you can always tear up the root ball. And I can't, I've got a limited space here. So I'm making I wanted to limit that. So I'm going to weave that in so that now I've got a little bit of transition. And I think the red is pretty against that gray. I'm really pleased that I found that great pepper plant. Let me turn it around so y'all can see how pretty it is. Isn't that just fabulous? And I can, move these around a little bit at the end if I have to. There we go. How's that? A little bit better. Okay. Hold still there, fellas. Okay. So I went over to Jackie McCauley's, Jarrett's Jungle, and we looked around, and she had some Kalanchoa or Kalanchoe. People say it differently. You'll have to ask Dr. John. And so I got 3 of those. And once again, I've got a lot of stuff to get in here, so I've taken a lot of the root ball off. And I'm going to put them down in here. Hold still, fella, hold still. And I've got one more. Now, we need something that really shows a sign of new life. And for that, lo and behold, I was so lucky at the grocery store. I found these paper whites that were growing in containers. And so that's going to be what looks like new growth, the new year really coming in. Isn't that fun? So we need a little more potting soil now. Be sure they're sweet little roots. And paper whites are the earliest of the bulbs to bloom in South Carolina. Mine have been blooming for about 2 weeks in St. Matthews. I'm sorry, they started blooming in the 1st of November in St. Matthews. Really early, way before the daffodils do. So let's get these lovely little paper whites in here. We'll put one more. And of course, I can just put them out in the yard when I finally take this apart. Give him a little more soil because we want to be sure those roots are well covered. Okay, and that it's up high enough for you to see. Now, I need something to come over the edge, and so I was able to find some ferns. This is a maidenhair fern that actually is hardy in South Carolina. I have some that stay in the garden. They die back in the winter but come back perfectly beautiful. And so we are going to use that as our spiller over the edge. I have a little baby holly fern that also can eventually go and live outside. Once again, don't be scared to really be firm about taking foliage away. Trying to make room. I advise you, if you do this at home, to do it where I do it out on the back porch, where you can sweep it out, and not in the television studio. But we've got a wonderful vacuum cleaner, so it'll all be fine. Okay, and so we're kind of coming towards the end. Tucking these little fellows in. Need a little more potting soil. I don't know why it helps if you stick your tongue out. Look, stick your tongue out sometimes. That's just part of doing stuff for me. I don't know why. Let's put, got one left. Let's put him right in here. Another beautiful little maiden here, which is of course a native that you find in places in South Carolina. And if you don't have some growing in a shady part of your garden, I would encourage you to get some because it's just so pretty. Okay, so now I need to tuck in more potting soil. Get it where everybody's got his roots or her roots, depending on how you, I guess a maidenhair fern would be maybe a maiden, so those are her roots. And get everybody, because you want good soil contact with the roots. And then now, and only now, after I'm gonna come in and slowly pour some water. And I just happen to have right here the containers that those little paperwhite bulbs came in. So I'm going to slowly add water, and I'm going to do this over the next hour or so to not flood it because I don't have any holes in this. So this is a little more, you have to be a little more careful when you're watering something that doesn't have good drainage. But I've got that done, and at this point, I can come back with a pair of scissors and get rid of all this old black stuff. That wonderful double black bag, because everything leaks. And I tell you, it is pretty awful if you're doing an arrangement on the wedding cake table and it's a silk tablecloth that the bride's grandmother had, and all of a sudden it's wet and the guests are pouring in the door. So make certain that you'll never have that happen to you. It also helps to have a slightly better pair of scissors. But we're managing these, because this is 4 layers of plastic that we're cutting through, which is a good bit. There we go. The end is in sight. Hang with me. Ugh. All righty. Put that over here. Snip, snip, zip. I think I know what I think I'm going to have to get my husband, who's real good at sharpening things, to sharpen my scissors for me. He has a file. He sharpens the scissors and the knives, of course. Okay, now I have some to tie it all together and hide anything that's ugly. I have some Spanish moss. And I like using this because, again, I think it references the lichens on the tree. You know, you always want repetition, repetition. So we'll have Spanish moss in here. And that way you won't see the edges and everything will look like it's related. And this will seem like it's a soil, an area where the plants are just growing. And it's so pretty. And don't worry about Spanish moss. Some people just think it's full of chiggers and red bugs. If it's on the ground, that might be true. If you pull it out of a tree, that's not true. But if you're worried about it, don't put it in the microwave because that's going to kill it. That's a living plant. So if you're worried about it having insects in it, just put it in the freezer for a little bit and it'll be fine. And that'll take care of any insect problems that you might have been worrying about. It's in the pineapple family, and it does flower. It's in certain parts of South Carolina because it has to be near water. So you find it down towards the coast, and we have a good bit of it in Calhoun County and a good bit of it in Sumter County. So here we are with an arrangement that I hope makes you kind of think of the old and then the new, with our little bulbs popping up. That we'll have a new year coming. And for all of us, we certainly hope that this new year is going to see that when we finally get together, everyone is still with us and we'll have a glorious reunion. But for you, New Year's this year, be with your close family and continue your traditions and enjoy your New Year's. There are a few more things I'd like to do, and I think I'm going to do them outside. So I'll see you in just a sec.